Now, let me ask you, we were talking about the managers. Why do you think managers have been phased out of the wrestling business? Because I still think that in today's wrestling world, I mean, there's that's definitely missing, and it's definitely something that could help with a lot of guys. You see a lot of guys with all the talent in the world, but with just maybe that one thing missing, whether it's on the mic or the charisma factor. Why do you think that we don't see the role of the manager as prominent as we did years ago?
I think it's because the entertainment business, the wrestling entertainment business, I have to use that word, entertainment business, for some reason they believed that the villain could be alone in the ring. And when they began to phase out those individuals, I think, and I have to concur and agree with you 100%, take a guy like Sheldon Benjamin. Tremendous athlete, but he can't work the stick. You get a manager in there with Benjamin, you get a guy that can do the talking, and you don't have to do a whole lot of it just to get the crowd pumped. A little cheating on the outside, I don't know how else to put this. My job is not to be the superstar. I am not a superstar. I'm a manager. My job, my goal is to get that wrestler, male or female, over in that ring, no matter what it takes. If I choke him, choke the guy, hit him, punch him, kick him when he's down, throw the knuckles in the ring so that we can win. And when I'm a face, that means getting beat up. That's what's missing in this business, is the ability of the manager to add that last, it's like a painting, to add that last bit of color. Look at Bobby Heenan, what he did. And I go back to a guy that I worked with several times, God rest his soul, I love him so much, Captain Lou Albano, one of the best in the business. And I'm not taking anything away from Freddie Blassie or Bobby Heenan, the Grain Wizard. Lou Albano did it all. His saying is, often imitated but never duplicated. This guy not only managed, but he wrestled. He brought the Samoans in. He was with the All Times, and he got in and got his ass kicked all the time. They need him back because you're right. It adds color, number one. Number two, it gets more heat. And number three, it's for the guy that can wrestle his butt off but can't use the stick. I think if they brought some of the managers back, and a good example of that is, and I'm going to throw her an accolade, look at Vicky Guerrero when she walks out as the GM of Raw.
She is outstanding. She is absolutely fantastic. Guys work their whole lives. They work their whole lives trying to get heat like that, and she comes out, and she just seems to be a master at it. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's perfectly fine. It's a conversation. And, I always say that the young men and when they ask me, how did I do in this match? And, I want to get more heat. They think getting heat's going out there, yelling at the crowd, shut up, being abusive. You know what? All Johnny Fabulous does now is walk to the curtain and the heat starts. Vicky Guerrero walks out on that ramp, doesn't say two words. As a matter of fact, she only says one word. Excuse me. And it's done. Vicky Guerrero she has come a long way, and she's a great example of what a good manager can be. And Paul Lee is another good example. You never saw Paul Lee say a lot. He did stuff outside the ring. He may have used the stick to get his guy over, but there's another guy that people love to hate. Another guy on the stick that I think is fantastic, and when he's done wrestling, I hope he'll consider managing. One of them already does it a little bit, Ric Flair. I worked with Rick. Rick is an outstanding man. Chris Jericho is another great example of all he does is walk out with that mic or that stick, and the heat is there. Just his facial expressions alone, and how you look at the crowd, and how you size that crowd up. Any good manager will look at the crowd. Any good manager, before he goes into any arena, which is what I try to do. I try to find as much about out as the community as I can, weaknesses, strengths, who's in the audience, what's not in the audience, and then you go from there. But take a look at Jericho. Another guy that could use a manager, in my opinion, is Sheamus. Strong Irishman. I think the kid's got a great future ahead of him, but he just lacks that ability to come across on the stick. You have a monster here, almost like Brock Lesnar, but hey fella, if you think you're going to keep the championship belt, there's another thing coming down the way, fella. Because I'll be the champion before you know it. Oh, hooray for you! And I'm not being wise. The kid's good. He's huge. I think he's going to go places.
I'm actually starting to think that he's coming along on his mic work. I definitely enjoy his in-ring work. I like the short program that he worked with John. I'm hoping that they're going to revisit that pretty soon. You seem to think that he would benefit from having a manager, whereas I was just starting to think that he's kind of coming into his own on the mic.
I won't argue that with you. From where he came and where he is now, I think they're working with him. I think that, if you've ever been back there, they've got a fantastic team. I think Mr. McMahon has one of the best teams in the world. Whatever you lack, there's a coach to take care of it for you. I think Sheamus will come along. He'll only get stronger in his mic work. And my whole thing is this. You get a strong manager behind him who's good on that stick, and it's like anything else. Maybe Sheamus turns to the manager, and now Sheamus does his own stick work.
While we're on the subject of guys that maybe could use a little bit of help, I want to turn to someone else. He's a guy who I think has got all the talent in the world. He seems to have impressed somebody backstage at WWE, but perhaps there is maybe just that one little thing missing, and I'm talking about Drew McIntyre. What are your thoughts on him?
I think there's a kid that's going to go a long way. There's no question in my mind about it. Evan Bourne's another kid that's going to go a long way. These kids have the ability to perform in the ring, but they lack the verbose words to go forward. I think, Drew McIntyre, in my opinion, is like a 4th of July rocket. He has no place to go but straight up, and when that kid explodes on the scene, really explodes on the scene, I think the world is going to be surprised. Okay. The trouble with most of the young men and women today is they forget that character when they go through the curtain. When John Cena Sr. gets to that curtain, and I got to give Triple H credit, he did a seminar and he said it best. 1, what makes you different from everybody else? 2, when Paul Levesque gets to that curtain and his foot goes through, Triple H is out. And look at a lot of these young men and women, and I think the one thing on their mind is to go out there, do every move in the book, get the shine, and then forget who they are. Let's go back to my buddy Sheamus. When he first started, it was like, okay, Sheamus is here. Then he began to become the monster. You notice how he's come along?
Right.
And I think that's what happens, and that's what I would tell the young people today. It's not all about going out there, and if you looked at the old tapes, and I've got 1 million of those tapes, look at Bruno Sammartino. Look at Heartbreak Kid and Triple H. They don't kill themselves in that ring. They put on a hell of a show. Nobody sells better in my book than Triple H and Cena and Heartbreak Kid and Chris Jericho and Edge. Tremendous athlete. Randy Orton. He's the comet. He's the shining star. But Randy Orton is 100% old school, and that's what people forget. I'm hopefully in a couple of weeks I'm going to be sitting down. I'm going to start a wrestling school. I hope. And
really,
we'll get that thing off the ground. Yep. And hopefully, if it works, it works. I have a friend that wants to do it. I've been thinking about it, and I'm saying, okay, what have I got to lose? And one of the things the schools today teach you how to bump, how to rump, how to hurricanrana, how to fall. They don't teach character development, and they don't teach you how to use the stick.